The 16th branch of Megamart and Macromart supermarkets in Bahrain has opened in Sahala. The best offers are available to the customers at affordable rates. Everyone is welcome. During and around the opening day, a variety of fish including salmon, meat and dairy products, roastery, frozen items, food and non-food items, groceries, fruits and vegetables, electronics, garments and ready-to-eat food items are available to the customers at affordable rates. Hearty welcome to all. Megamart and Macromart, your favorite shopping destination.
വാട്ടിയ വാഴയിലയിൽ കുത്തരിച്ചോറും പരിപ്പും പപ്പടവും സാമ്പാറും അവിയലും തോരനുമൊക്കെയായി ഒരു പൊതിച്ചോറ് കിട്ടിയാലോ? കൊതിച്ചു നിൽക്കാതെ വരൂ മോനോ ലൗഞ്ച് ആൻഡ് റെസ്റ്റോറന്റിലേക്ക്. സൗത്ത് ഇന്ത്യൻ, ചൈനീസ്, ഗ്രിൽ തുടങ്ങിയ വ്യത്യസ്ത രുചിഭേദങ്ങൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആസ്വദിക്കാം ഫാമിലി ഫസ്റ്റ് ക്ലാസ് റെസ്റ്റോറന്റ് ആയ മോനോയിൽ നിന്നും. കൂടാതെ പാർട്ടി ഹാൾ, പ്രൈവറ്റ് പാർക്കിംഗ്, ലൈസൻസ്, ഷീഷ, ലൈവ് മ്യൂസിക് എന്നിവയും ലഭ്യമാണ്. മോനോ ലൗഞ്ച് ആൻഡ് റെസ്റ്റോറന്റ് after Siam Garage, Lulu Dana Mall Road, Burhama. Contact number 7793 4111 3363 4111.
An art lover who's so sure of the value of art and artists. A woman who painted her dreams of art curating in colors so successfully bright. A resident with a strategic vision who helped in positioning Bahraini artists among collectors and art enthusiasts across the globe. Kanika Sabawal, founder, Art Select. Kanika set up Art Select in 2008, wherein she invested her consulting and curating expertise to realize her vision of transforming Bahrain into a global soft power. Drawing upon her extensive experience of organizing and network over 60 art exhibitions across 4 continents, she created and established Art Bahrain Across Borders to make Bahrain a hub of art in the region. Since its inauguration in 2015, ArtBab grew exponentially and has been a commercial success. Kanika boasts of over 20 years of experience as an art consultant working with leading artists and collectors throughout the GCC, particularly in Bahrain. Through her International Artist Program, she organized numerous art exhibitions of Bahraini artists at renowned art destinations such as the Victoria Albert Museum, London, Saatchi Gallery, London, Bikana House, New Delhi, Bombay Art Society, Mumbai, Cosmoscope, Moscow, Grand Palais, Paris, among others. She also heads Indigo Advisory, which offers end-to-end tailored art consultancy solutions for all those who are creative in their pursuit and passion. She is the founder of Tarkib, an artisanal brand crafted in Bahrain, an exquisite collection of Bahrain-inspired clothing, lifestyle items, furniture, and wall art. The strategic advisor to Creative Women's Platform, a high-profile networking platform for shared experiences, Kanika leads by example. Wife to Amitabh Sabharwal and mother to Saloni, Kanika lives in Rifa Views. Joining us on the Women's Day special episode of Biz Talk, a show which features success stories of business leaders from BMC Global Live. It is a vibrant woman who loves the colors of art. Founder of Art Select, Kanika Sabharwal. Contemporary art is her passion. A curator who has identified herself on the map of the kingdom's art scenario. Create, curate, and consult, says the guest tonight with us on this Women's Day special episode of Biz Talk from BMC Global Live, a show which features success stories of business leaders. Founder of Art Select, Kanika Sabharwal. Good evening, Ms. Sabharwal. Welcome to the show. I would prefer calling you Kanika.
Absolutely. I'd like to be called Kanika. Thank you, Raji, for inviting me.
Yeah, great to have you on this very special day, which is a day that's close to my heart, and I'm sure it's close to your heart as well.
Absolutely.
Though people say that we don't need a day to celebrate women because we are so colorful, and as your website says, we are so loud, isn't it?
Loud and emphatic.
Yes. Okay. So let's celebrate this evening with a beautiful chat.
Sure.
And what more can I ask than to have a very colorful person in every aspect who has defined herself in a field so unique, curating art. Tell us about this, the whole thing that you're doing.
To explain where I am today, I would probably have to go back to yesterday when I was, I don't know, a very young mother, or rather mother-to-be. I used to be a textile designer. In fact, and one of my inspiration stories is that one of the core inspirations I have is my mother-in-law. Okay. Very unlike Asian societies, I know she's the mother-in-law, so as to speak, is always the foe. But in my case, she was a driving force. I was a young comfort child who was used to picking up her bag and looking around and enjoying life, and then I got married. And then, I don't know, once she and I were walking into a store, I'd done a lot of hand block printing, textiles. Okay. That's a part of my life that, not many people know. And we walked into a factory, I remember, and I said, I love doing this. And she said, okay. And the next thing I know, she had taken over the factory for me. So I was selling clothes. Selling fabrics. So that's where I realized the importance of good wearing. I was very fussy as a consumer since I was a child, but that was a turning point. But then when I was pregnant with my daughter, the pigment smell and stuff like that is something she didn't want me to be exposed to. So now I had all this energy and really nothing to do. It was around that time that there was, I'm talking about, my daughter was born in 2003, so I'm talking about the year 2001, 2002, when art had all of a sudden become the new thing. Every day you heard new things in the papers, and there were auctions, and there was, so if you were not in the art space, you were not there. Okay. And being in Delhi, for anybody who knows the difference between our four metropolitans, I was a Bombay girl, so for me it really didn't make a difference, but anywhere you'd go, that was the new story. So of course I came back with it and I said, this is a field I know nothing about. Like, I knew nothing. I'm not an art student, absolutely nothing. And of course, you know, like every good wife, it was a sales pitch to my husband to say, oh, you know what? I think this is a great investment. And he turned back to me and said, oh, you know what? I disagree because you know nothing about it. And with the kind of numbers you're giving me, either this is bust or it's not a straight business. And that, to me, hit a chord that where's the gap? Because what he's saying, and he is a numbers person, so that's when I got into, I said, okay, this is a story I want to unveil. That's when I got into understanding the business of art. Our neighbors at the time used to run a gallery, and you know, I started working with them. And then I would, you know, every day, like I said, but the story continued because it was buzzing. The international markets India was all of a sudden becoming a trading hub. Like people were buying, selling, and these prices, and I was like, how is this working? So then I said, okay, I'm going to figure it out for myself. That's when Art Select was born in 2005. Yeah, my daughter was born in 2003, and I took that long break to collect art. But now I had to see, so how is the art appreciating? How is it going up? How are you getting these figures? Like, how is this return of 50% coming from? Like, where is it coming from? So I said, okay, so I acquired the art, and then I waited, and I sat on it. And then I said, okay, now is when I'll step into the market, into the world of art as a seller. That's when Art Select was born. So we called, I had a very famous tagline that our work begins once a sale is made. I wanted to see what happens after so, you know, I walked into a lot of galleries, and some of them typically told me, like, didn't even bother about me because I was as, well, not
casual.
Yeah, as I am today. So I didn't have my hair done up, and I just...
You did not look like really an art buyer.
Art buyer. I did not fit into the cliche. So they didn't want to waste their time on this oversized, loud, scruffy woman in her sneakers. I think that the only thing I had to add to my credibility from their perspective was a fancy bag. And they were like, what? So a lot of times I would walk into a space and I would literally walk out without being attended to. And that made me think, so what happens to people like me who want to buy art but are not art buyers, are not identified as, oh, you can see me at a wine and cheese evening and da, 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 da. It's not who I am. That's when Art Select was created in my head. Now I had to make it real. Most, not communities, but you know, I think the thumb rule of business is that very few people do it like business. So especially when it comes to women, I mean, we're talking about this is Liberation and Women's Day and everything, and I have my own cliche on that too. But we somehow feel that business is community driven. I am doing an exhibition, so all my friends must come, and my aunts must come, and my, I don't know, mother-in-law's friends must come, and that becomes a business. And I have a very successful show because all my relatives have bought from me. But unfortunately, that is not business. That is social pressure, which is going to die off either out of fatigue or out of sheer despise for one another. So I had to move out of my comfort zone again, which meant, like, I grew up in Bombay. I got married in Delhi, so those two places were out of the question. And I don't know too many people in the other two metropolis, being the north, you know, east and the west. So, okay, now where do I go? My husband's uncle has been based in Dubai for, I don't know, 5-6 decades now. So I told him, I said, you know what? Dubai it is. And he's like, out of the blue, just like that. Not a soul knows you there. And I was like, that's the point. And that's how Art Select was born. We did our first show at the Grand Hyatt in Dubai in 2006. So that's the story then.
Okay, that's a wonderful recap, my curiosity, or I got just stuck at the point where you said about business and art. You know, it sounded oxymoron to me, to many commoners, because art is not business, right? Art is very aesthetic. The finesse of art is different.
And that's the whole problem, because we are constantly, and that is one of the fundamental things that is incorrect, because we are associating art constantly with charity, it's my passion, I love doing it, I want to do it for the artist. Do you hear how those statements sound? You are incapacitating. And I'm sorry, because I'm so done with this topic. You are incapacitating a creative individual to be a subject of sorry, because you want to do charity and you want to help him and you want to, I don't know, provide for him. But at the end of it, all you want to do is glorify yourself, because you are the anchor who is working for the artist. So you were not doing anything for him or her. You're actually taking away their skill set, and reducing them to a pitiable state, because you do not want to classify yourself as a benefactor. See, these are fundamental things which are wrong. It's like what you see is not what you get, because once you're there standing on a podium and I said, oh my God, I'm this person, either you do it silently and nobody knows about it, great. Either you go and set up an art school, nobody knows who the donor is, go and set it up, let all the youngsters benefit from it, great. But if you're going up there and standing on the podium and saying, oh my God, I benefited, then who are you glorifying? So when you say that art is an object of finesse, I agree. But every object of finesse and lifestyle comes with a price tag. Over generations. In fact, art is not something that happened today. It has been commercially visible today. But art and its appreciation has been coming down generations. When the West did it, we said, oh my God, they are fantastic. But the fact of the matter is that India had it so many years back. There are artworks and there are pieces that you can't even think of. But it took us a while to get the format. And today, regionally, again, there are so many valuables, but they were not born today. Bahrain, for instance. Bahrain has rather, if I've got my numbers right, over 100 to 200 practicing artists today. And I'm being very conservative. I'm giving you my figure assessments for when I was in the field on ground. That's about 4 years back. Back then, I could safely say that we've got 200 to 250 practicing artists.
I'm sure that would have gone up.
But that doesn't happen overnight. Where do the aesthetics come from? Where does the sensibility come from? It goes back to the roots which have culture. The roots that go back to the Dilmun civilization, where that itself was a chapter in history. So now that's obviously come down. So it's always existent. But every form has to take a new shape. The commerce of art is actually so important to identify. It's as important as the artist, because that's the only way you can do justice to him. So yeah, that's your answer on the commerce of art.
I can see the passion in your eyes as to how you're struggling to explain to this to the...
It's not about struggling. See, again, I feel at the end of it, our problem is that we're all humans. And our problem is that no matter how much I tell you it's about you, eventually it's about me. And that's the problem. The problem is that I want to believe that I'm doing it for you. That's not the point. I'm doing it for me. And that's okay, provided I can be fair to you and to myself. Now, when you when you want to empower an artist, then you commercialize him, then you structure him. That's where your effort goes into. And then you position him there where he or she is able to command respect for himself. That is a service to the artist. not a service on, I want to do a charity. What kind of charity? Anything, because he is born with a skill set. I say this to all the artists, in fact, because like I told you, I've never been to art school, and I've been put on these panels a number of times with people who are so much more qualified and educated in the field than I am, that, and I actually said it, I remember there's this particular panel we did in London during the Russian Art Week. I'm talking about way back in 2014-15. And I had the then editor of the Arts newspaper, I had a scholar, and I had a Theodora Clark. She is now one of the MPs, I think, with, and all of them, Theodora was the moderator, sorry, and all these people, and when I started off, I had to put my cards on the table, and I said, you know what, I do not have the experience you guys have. The only thing I know is what I learned on ground. And this gentleman sitting opposite me, he said, that's what makes your education far more superior than us, because I honestly do not know. So if you get back to me today and say, oh, did you read, I don't know, so-and-so book on curation, I would tell you, never heard of it. So, so what and the practical experience just taught me that, listen, it's a cycle. There is art. He's a skilled individual. She's a skilled individual. Now, you and I, doctors, bankers, journalists, entrepreneurs, what do? We work in order to facilitate something that's called an income. Whether we need that income, don't we need that income, what we do with that income is nobody's problem. But it's got a commercial objective. I mean, if each one, yes, there are philanthropists that exist, and God bless them, but I would like to believe that in a handful of 100 people, that number is 3, realistically. The rest of us, we have an objective in life. Now the artist, his skill is all he's got, right? So that skill has to look after himself, he has to use to look after himself, his family, his children, pay the rent, pay the salaries. How is he going to do that? If all of us are only going to start helping him by talking about the help we are going to provide to him, that's not help. He doesn't get help. He's got a studio with 500 canvases. He doesn't know what to do with them. He has never been in the outside world. He's never marketed himself. He's not a commercial person. And the rest of us are all helping him. So is he really being helped? That's the question to ask.
Great. So that is the beautiful Kanika Sabharwal explaining to us the commerce in art. Join us after a break on Biz Talk from BMC Global Live.
The 16th branch of Megamart and Macromart supermarkets in Bahrain has opened in Sahla. The best offers are available to the customers at affordable rates. Everyone is welcome. During and around the opening day, a variety of fish including salmon, meat and dairy products, roastery, frozen items, food and non-food items, groceries, fruits and vegetables, electronics, garments and ready-to-eat food items are available to the customers at affordable rates. Hearty welcome to all. Megamart and Macromart, your favorite shopping destination.
Welcome back to Biz Talk from BMC Global Live, and tonight with me on this Women's Day special episode, it is Kanika Sabarwal. So Kanika, coming back to Art Select, can you tell us, you just explained the commerce of art, the business of art. I loved listening to it. It was like a story. And you emphasized on empowering the artist in the real way. Tell us, what do you do? Like, how do you collect art? What is your criteria? From where do you collect art? Can you explain the process? I'm sure it's huge, it's Herculean.
I personally, well, we as a couple started collecting art way back, like I said, in 2003. And earlier it was, art that we knew of, art I studied, art I would consult. So a lot of Indian art, a lot of South Asian art. Until, and then I came into Bahrain in 2007. And I was fascinated by the amount of art, local talent that was available here. One of the artists that I have been collecting since 2007, I don't know how many years that is, my math is so bad, is Jamal Abdul Rahim.
Okay.
I remember buying my first Jamal canvas in as early as 2008. And I was extremely fascinated. In fact, my home in Bahrain has more Bahraini art than anything else, because I personally feel we are an investment waiting to happen. Only purely because there is a certain characteristic of the artist, which is that, and this is something I observed when I was doing the international program for the Bahraini artists, that no matter where they go, no matter where they live, no matter where they've studied, they have a sense of integrity towards their roots, and that reflects in their work. And that to me is very important. I mean, I collect art, I advise on art, but I also look at the foundation of, like, just recently, I was asked by a friend on a particular artwork of a very, very famous international artist. And honestly, for anybody else, it would be a no-brainer. I mean, the figure asking was a no-brainer, and the label was a no-brainer. But I just couldn't get myself to advise him on the efficacy of it, like on the, there has to be something more. This is my perspective, that a work of art has to do a lot more for you. I mean, and especially if you are somebody like us who like it in their home, then it's got to have a lot more character. Because I don't like my art lying in the store. Although I do get threatened very often by my husband that if I get one more artwork, it's either me or the artwork, because he says that very soon there is not going to be any place even for the flies to find.
Okay.
Space. Yeah.
Right. So, and also going back to your background, you said you studied textile, right? And from there,
I'm a commerce student. No, I studied commerce.
Or your interest was more into textile.
Yes, correct.
The journey, you know, and right now you're immersed into contemporary art and a different kind, isn't it? Totally. The journey, which is more appealing to you if you sit back and think? Do you miss textile designing in art, or do you find any combination, a fusion, if I may ask? Like,
I don't coincidentally, because I've gone back to my roots.
Okay.
So color, what you're identifying as textile and art, I identify as color. Color makes me happy.
Okay.
And not just the visibility of it, the character of it. The character of what blue and yellow do together makes me happy. It also makes me think on the power of a pigment. And I'll tell you why I went back to the roots. So I was working on a project where I was working with the artists of Bahrain, and in the last edit of the chapter, we moved ahead to working with the crafts, the craftsmen. You know that Bahrain has a very, very intense group of crafts artisans.
Yes.
With various forms of embroidery, nail work, woodwork. So in 2009, that's where my story led me to. And what began then was, I have a friend who's a senior, J.J. Valaya, he's a senior designer. He's been in the business for 27 years. And I remember speaking to him and telling him, you're coming to Bahrain. And he said, okay. And I said, he says, and what am I doing there? I said, you're working with our artisans. He says, okay, you're taking me to a country I've never been to before, and I'm working with their artisans. And what am I doing? I said, you are creating your best with them. And what that resulted in was something called a Bahrain room, where we created 16 bespoke pieces of furniture, of installations. We worked with porcelain, we worked with wood, we worked with nail work, we worked with fabric woven in Beni Jamra village. And that collection traveled to the Paris Biennale, and I remember the team there coming and saying that, are you trying to tell me this work has been done by the artisans? Luckily for me, we had taken our artisans with us. So that that was a, you know, when you say coming back to your own, and then unfortunately came COVID, so which was a test of everybody's nerves.
Yes.
And for me, it was, I'm sure everybody's story, everybody has a story to tell. But for me, it was going from not knowing where to find 5 minutes to myself to having 24 hours in one day. My family at the time were in Delhi, so it was me and the staff. I hadn't seen my family for years, 2 years, because I wasn't traveling. I also had some health restrictions, so I wasn't traveling. They couldn't travel to me. So, and then I would literally wake up every morning and say, what am I even going to do with myself? Until one day I walked in and, you know, I told the staff, I said, we're going to clean cupboards. And what I found in those cupboards was wool and cotton and wool. And I'm like, okay, Kanika Savarwal, if you can't create anything out of this, then shame on you. That's when we just started, and we created this range of cushions. So we couldn't go, so nothing could come from anywhere, and nothing could go out from here. So there was raw material, there was a weaver, we got him to weave. We created cushions, which were a part of our Dillman collection with Dillman seals. We got them photographed. They didn't even go, because there was no budget to, and nobody was looking at advertising campaigns at the time. We just put them on social media. We got buyers from Poland, Paris, and I was like, okay, this is going somewhere. It led to developing a range of household, lifestyle collectibles. Ended up doing a story with leather and fabric woven in Beni Jamra village. And I've just finished my second exhibit of clothes, ensembles from, which is, so the brand, and that's when the brand Tarakib was born. Tarakib is, in Indian, of course, when you call it in Hindi, it's Tarkib.
Tarkib.
But there is an Arabic connotation, which also means Tarkib, which is putting things together.
Okay.
So, because that's all I was doing. I was putting things together. And so Tarakib was born, which is a brand inspired by Bahrain. And then we started formatting, okay, what are the embroideries? How can we get them done? And if they can't be done in mass quantities here, or I mean, right now, maybe we can get somebody else to do it. How do we fuse? So the cross-cultural dialogue, as I call it, that started with artists and curating, and now led to cross-cultural dialogue between techniques, because eventually all our sensibilities are the same. Whether it's the color palette, whether it's the embroidery on the bisht versus the thread work, whether it is the nakda versus mukesh, there is a lot of synergy. So it was about marrying all of it together. We launched our clothes brand in October last year at a pop-up exhibit, which was organized by Touches Events, and we did our second. Our second event has gotten over last night at 11. What began as an edit of 80 pieces grew, because I had to keep getting in stocks, to an edit of 120 pieces, of which we have 40 pieces. And the brand focuses on two main pillars, which is again, my family keeps joking that I've done it for myself, is authenticity, integrity. Those are the two words I work with. So we only work with pure fabrics. So it's pure linen, pure khadi, pure cotton, pure silk. We don't do synthetic fibers. And we work with handwork.
Okay.
So to answer your question, sorry the answer was very long, that
fine.
I did come into back to my roots, because eventually, again, it's about their skill. There is no, if you actually take a step back and look, every creative, and that could be whether he's an artist or he's a craftsman or he or she is a chef, what they do is their meditation, and that skill is specific to themselves. You know, it's like you could try your best, and a lot of people tell me, so do you draw? And I keep telling them, I can't draw a straight line. I swear I could mess up drawing with a stencil. So they have the skill, and that's, yes, but I'm not going to take away from myself. Maybe when they were distributed skill, I was distributed the skill of expressing this skill.
Right.
Again, so those dynamics, for every 10 of them or 100 of them, one of me was allotted.
Right. It's fine. Your answers are definitely long, but then very interesting, like a piece of poetry, trust me. Coming back to Bahrain, you did mention Bahrain, from India to Dubai to Bahrain, and now you're a Bahrain-based art curator. And in many of your shows, you have brought out the essence of Bahrain globally. Tell us about that experience, and how do you look at, you did speak about Bahrain's wealth in terms of art, but then where do you see the country going?
See, Bahrain for me is home. I've been here now for, like I said, bad math. There is a huge plethora of talent. There is a sizable amount of exposure. However, I think channeling that exposure is what is key. I think the good thing with Bahrain is that we are a community, but there's another part to it, that it always begins outside the community. You very well summed it up that I'm a Bahrain-based art curator, but at the end of it, I have modified that definition for myself, like you would see in that website, create, curate, consult, which makes me a specialist in the field. And that field could be art, it could be design, because see, what happens is, my favorite project was called Across Borders. And a lot of times I've been asked on why the emphasis on borders. I see a lot of people using the borders term today, but I started it in 2005 with my first ever show, which was Art Across Borders, because I was taking Asian art at the time across. Because for me, it's always very challenging yet interesting. Listen, everybody is a champ in their own house. You know, what happens outside? I constantly tell my daughter, she's in the UK, that, okay, fantastic. And we saw this with her when she was in her first year, not getting used to, because, okay, you're a champion wherever you're coming from. But don't forget, in the university that you've gone to, there are 500 other champs like you. How do you top that game is what defines who you are. The same Across Borders, which made me go from a comfort zone to a Dubai, for instance. What happens when you are in a place where people only know you because of your work? That is the actual test of you. When you do an exhibit, when you do a showcase, and the unknown people. It's like, you know, I was actually telling a friend this morning, we had this 5-day exhibit, and yes, I know a lot of people because, of course, this is my country, I've been here forever. But I know for a fact that I can, I can thump the table on my product, because I have a phone book of new friends who are not even from Bahrain. But what attracted them to me was my product. Now, that is the challenge of everything. Towards the end, I mean, that is what it is. So when you say, what do I think about Bahrain, I think that we have immense amount of talent, but we've got to channel it in a way that it is visible on the world map. I mean, and that's happening in most of the fields. And I see a couple of the artists who are doing a great job by stepping out of, in the region. But if we can get more and more artists to get out there, because they have the talent. There's immense amount of talent. It's just about getting out of your comfort zone and saying, okay, I'm going to take it as it is and catch the bull by the horn.
Great. Yes, colors make her happy, and every color speaks a story to her. That is the beautiful Kanika Sapparwal with us on Biz Talk on this very special episode on Women's Day. Let's take a short break.
The 16th branch of Megamart and Macromart supermarkets in Bahrain has opened in Sahla. The best offers are available to the customers at affordable rates. Everyone is welcome. During and around the opening day, a variety of fish including salmon, meat and dairy products, roastery, frozen items, food and non-food items, groceries, fruits and vegetables, electronics, garments and ready-to-eat food items are available to the customers at affordable rates. Hearty welcome to all. Megamart and Macromart, your favorite shopping destination.
Welcome back to Biz Talk from BMC Global Live, and with me tonight is the founder of Art Select, Kanika Sabharwal. Kanika, I enjoyed every bit of your answers. As you said, it was long, but then I was just glued onto it because, as I told you, you were talking stories, and it's beautiful to hear your experiences from a totally different perspective of art and curating, etc., etc. Let's come to your beautiful family. Tell us something about your family. You did speak of your mother-in-law, and you did mention about your husband and your daughter.
So,
but tell us a little more.
I grew up, but my father was as conservative as a conservative North Indian can be. I got married when I was 20 and a half. I turned 21 after I got married. But I got married into a family where I just posted because it was my father-in-law's birthday yesterday, and we lost him 2 years back to COVID. And I just posted that in-laws was a term used for them, that society used for them. But to me, they were parents. My husband is the only son of his parents, and I'm the only daughter of my parents. But it was like I never needed to go back home. My house in Delhi, and my parents are in Bombay. But there was never a need to go back because this was home. My husband and I are, well, when you say it takes two to tango, completely different people.
Okay.
But a perfect definition of opposites attract. I can't stop talking, and you have to literally pinch him to talk. I am a complete creative, and he is bottom line driven.
Okay.
When we got married, his discipline was by the book. I was completely the reverse. He wakes up at 4:45. So what do you expect? We've got a daughter. Our daughter is, unfortunately, she picked up from the father and not the mother.
Okay.
Yeah. She's an economics student studying history, politics, and economics at UCL in London in her second year.
What is her name?
Saloni.
Okay.
Saloni Sabharwal, yes.
Right.
So that's our little
So
family.
you've been in Bahrain from 2007, right? Okay, where do you live in Bahrain?
Rifa Views.
Okay, all right.
That's been home.
Okay, Bahrain is home to you.
Yes, absolutely.
What would be one thing that you would pinpoint about your life in Bahrain? The beauty of living in Bahrain, from your artistic point of view.
You've seen it, I say it for my profession. For me, like I told you, whether it is what I do, how I do, where I do, the three words that form the basis of who I am is dignity, integrity, and authenticity. And honestly, that's how I would define my journey in Bahrain. When I came to Bahrain, I came as a single woman, not because of anything else, but the fact that, like I mentioned, my husband is the only son of his parents. He was there coming every month and looking after parents, and Saloni was studying in modern school in Delhi. I was here doing what I had to. And so I gravitated towards everybody who gravitated towards me. And what was an observation made by an outsider to say, oh, but you have so many friends who are Bahrainis. Now, that goes to their credit because they welcomed me into their space and ensured that I was not the outsider. So, in fact, I find myself at a loss because, I keep joking that when so-and-so says, oh, you're in Bahrain, you might be knowing this person, and she's from, and I don't. Because, like I said, so these three words, and it's not only me, I think that's what Bahrain is known for. The dignity, the respect, the authenticity. So that defines my journey. My relationships here, I very proudly say they are my own. They don't come from any antecedents of who I am, what I belong to, who my family is, they are absolutely, absolutely my own. And they've withered storm, hail, storm, fire, and they're still there. So like I said, I'm an only child, but I can safely say I have a sisterhood like none other.
Okay.
I mean, really, and when I say it, I mean it. Where Eid and Diwali are celebrated with the same fervor. Beautiful. And this is not just, just not something I'm just saying because the lights are on. I would say it even with my eyes closed. In sickness and health, it's all been there. So I am very grateful.
Beautiful. What's new with Art Select?
Art Select, Art Select has grown. So Art Select is, my journey is a culmination of my relationships. And I always say that for every one relationship that I made which was mine and stayed, I'm sure there are 5 that severed because of who I am, because of what I do. I'm very clear about what I want. I'm very clear about what I will not do. And that in the business sphere, you can cross paths with a lot of people. But having said that, so today I have multiple brands. One is Taraqi, which is my craft brand. Art Select has grown into something called Art Select Experiences, which has become a global events company where we have tie-ups, international tie-ups. So we've got tie-ups with a company that does events in India, who brings in Bollywood, Hollywood, the fireworks. We have a tie-up with a company in the UK who focus on culture, so cultural events, ballets, performances. We've got a tie-up with a company who specialize in conferences, AI, digitalization. They've done some work with us in 2019 when I was still running the fair. We brought in speakers, and in fact, that's the time we first introduced virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and art. So we've got specialists today who organize that. So all of this has come under the Art Select umbrella. So we've grown in a way that we want to become a, what's the word? A one-stop shop for everything related to lifestyle. With a focus on art, which will always be there, I think, wherever I go. That art focus,
it has to be. Yeah, that seems
it is who I am, absolutely.
Yes, okay. In fact, it was beautiful speaking to you, Kanika.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking us through the business of art.
I know, it sounds so harsh when you listen to it, but honestly, if people started just saying it.
Yeah, it made sense to a common man like me, that's what's needed.
And I would just, if people just embraced it for what it is, and that's why I think I'm so emphatic about it, because if people just embraced it, I'm telling you, it would be the largest service to the community, more than any charity, because it's that word that we need to take away and just give them the power that's theirs.
Great. And yes, I'm very happy that I could have a woman on board on this very special episode who is very particular about dignity, integrity, and authenticity. And I think every woman out there should take that as a message. But let me wind this show up with one question on this very special day. And this year, the Women's Day is themed on, I'm sure you know, equity in digital era. Digital equity for women, and your field of art curating or consultancy or creation. How do you look at that theme, and how do you think your world could contribute to it, and what would be your final remarks on this?
When I begin my answer, you may want to push me out of the studio because only because I say this at most places. The divide between masculine and feminine is created by the feminine.
No, I'll never push you out of the studio. I'm with you on that.
And I'll tell you why. Have you ever seen men make men's clubs? Men empowerment organization. I have a campaign for men. Have you ever seen men say, oh my God, I was spoken so badly, how dare you? This is the power we are giving an ordinary person who would be as ordinary as we want him to be. Now we have created a beast out of that poor man anyway. Now we are victimizing ourselves and saying, now we need to empower women. I am as equal as anybody.
Correct. I agree.
Why is it so important? And unfortunately, and I can say this with my eyes closed, yes, there are cases, and I will put that rider, but in 90% of the cases, the only person bringing a woman down is a woman. Because with men, and this again, I'm saying it with the rider because yes, everybody has both sides of experiences. But with a man, it is, I can do this, I can't do this. End of story. You go your way, I go mine. But with us, because of our personality, it is the whole banyan tree and the story behind it. And before you know it, you don't even know what the problem is. How are you going to find a solution? And then you come back and say, I was spoken like this because I'm a woman. So what have you done? A perfectly normal situation, you have blown it out of proportion, you have victimized yourself and downgraded. So coming back to, yes, to speak, if I had to tell somebody or tell a fraternity who is from the same fraternity I am, I would just say that if you don't want to be a victim, stop victimizing yourself. If you do not want to be pushed in a corner, stop pushing people in a corner. Because you do it all the time. Why do I keep emphasizing on authenticity and integrity? Trust you me, you know, we say it to our children. It's going to come back. In today's scenario, the world has reached, I mean, I don't know, people of our fraternity are in space and you're still talking about empowerment.
Very true.
And then you start comparing yourself to the women in the villages. But you are not that woman. You are going and spending $30,000 on a bag. You know, that's what I'm trying to say, that we lose perspective. Okay, but then there are women who are being still put in the fire. So what are you talking about? You have to speak about yourself today. Today you are in a scenario where you are globe-trotting, you are buying a bag worth $10,000, you are reaching space, and then you're talking about how can you empower me more? What do you want? Because the minute I tell you, how will you empower me? I've already reduced myself to your shoes and elevated you, but you have not asked for that elevation. So I think what the fraternity needs to understand is that stop victimizing yourself.
Okay.
The power is within you. It's not with anybody else.
Thank you, Kanika, and happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us on
Pleasure is all mine.
BMC Global Live.
Thank you.
Right. Life gives us opportunities once. Whether we let them decay or utilize them to change our life lies within us. This is not from me. This is from Kanika Sabharwal herself, who was with us tonight on this special episode on this International Women's Day on BizTalk from BMC Global Live. Until we meet next week with yet another guest, this is Rajiv Unikrishnan signing off. Good night.